SoundCartel.
From SoundCartel, I'm Nicole Goodman, and this is Business Essentials Daily. Clear, simple communication is an important skill to develop, especially since too many professionals get wrapped up in jargon and complexity. Employee engagement specialist Esther De La Cruz has some advice. Deliberate simplicity is key to driving change and making ideas stick. Esther outlines some practical strategies for breaking down complex concepts, testing clarity and refining messages. And she starts by explaining to Jeff Waters what she means by simplicity in this context.
I found a long time ago when I was navigating different projects, sometimes multiple projects at the same time, and I would come in as someone who was completely green on the topic that the project was about, the product that was changing or the system that was changing. What I needed was people to explain to me in very simple language so I could follow what was actually happening and why was it happening and what did I need to understand about the change and about the product and about the system. And so I found myself navigating that. I think the other element might be for me that English is my second language, although maybe right now it doesn't sound like that anymore. But when I first started, I needed to simplify things in simple words because my vocabulary in English wasn't that extravagant. And so I asked the architects I would work with, the project managers, the business analysts to just dumb it down for me. And when I started documenting that and sharing it with stakeholders, it was a beautiful thing to watch them go, light bulb goes off. Now I understand what they're talking about. Now I understand how this impacts me. And so it became a real mission for me. Whenever I would start a new project as a change manager, it would be the first thing I would do. I would try to simplify the language we were using around explaining what was happening. And so now in recent times when I love dipping my toe into neuroscience, I've actually also learned another really key nugget about this simplicity part and the fact that simplicity actually always wins. Because our brain likes to receive something that is easy to digest, that is easy to grasp. And if it's hard to grasp, we will probably resist or even give up very quickly to actually try and grasp it. And so when we try to motivate people to change their behaviors, we want them to be open to a new belief or to a new way of doing something. And when we tell them that in complex language, it's almost like a wall goes up because as soon as you talk to them, they will just stop trying to understand. If you tell them that in a very easy and simple way, they open a little bit more up. It's like, oh, I can easily grasp this. This is easy to digest. I can see how this relates to me. And that's when kind of the seeds are being planted for that change. It's like you're starting the process of understanding what is changing, why it's changing, and then what they may need to change in their beliefs to actually show up with the right behaviors to adopt a change. So that's where I love simplifying things where it's too complex for people to understand.
What are the applications of this? Where would I be simplifying things?
In the workplace where I operate the most, I would say we use a lot of jargon in business and we have very intense expertise around certain topics within business, such as the different products we produce or systems we use. Now there's a lot of expertise around data. But the people that we are trying to involve in what we're trying to achieve, they are further removed from that knowledge and from that detail. So to break it down into simple terms, to bring everyone on that path to the change that we want to achieve together and to the success, simplicity is essential. To simplify the wording we use, the narrative we use. Also, repetition is important. So like I said before, when our brain receives the information, we're not immediately going to be understanding it. We're not immediately going to change our behaviors. But as you repeat that simple message over and over again, it starts to sink in. So the risk with simplicity, though, is we can't oversimplify things either. And that's the fine balance, right? There's always that moment where you go, too much simplicity, the essence is gone. So it's very much around a balancing act. So in business, absolutely simplicity applies. But I find it also applies in parenthood with kids, You know, they don't want to do something and you need to break it down why it's essential that they do show up and eat their vegetables or do their sports or show up for schoolwork, and break it down for them what the reasons behind us pushing for those behaviors is, in simple terms, is important in that dialogue. I can't actually think of any circumstance where it isn't. I mean, when you go out shopping and you want to buy a certain product and the instruction manual is 10 pages long and they don't describe to you what it will do, you will quickly move on to another product where they do describe to you in 2 words or 3 words or 2 sentences what the product will help you do, rather than that long-winded manual that you saw on the other product. So simplification, I think, is crucial in lots of ways in life.
When you're a specialist in a certain area, however, you are educated, and then you form your vocabulary, you form your methods of communication based on your specialization. So if I'm writing a document, a memo, or if I'm writing something describing a product or service, how do I know that I need to simplify things because I understand it?
That's right. I like to do the test of, what if I walked out the door and stopped a perfect stranger? Would I be able to explain in a quick 1 to 2 minute spiel what it is that I'm working on or what the product is? It's maybe testing it on your teenage children, like, does my language make sense? But just in general, people that are further removed from what you're working on, test it on them, test it on a friend. Does this make sense? Would you know what you're buying from me if this is what I would tell you? And you will get the questions back. Oh, please clarify that, or clarify that. And that was obviously not the intent of your pitch. You want your pitch to be so clear that someone knows, I need that, or I don't need that.
I suppose it's difficult too, in that you don't want to be so simple that you demean or insult the audience.
That's right. Or diminish the quality of the product or the essence of. So it is absolutely a fine balance. And you probably go with a bit more complexity at first and test that out with your stakeholders, with your audience. And as you notice that it isn't quite landing and the desired outcome you're not achieving yet, then you can continue to refine. The art of words is, of course, quite challenging at times and a real creative process. And it's an iterative process. And I also find that over time, the language you use might change because people get more educated on, for example, AI. I'm sure that when AI was first introduced, the language they used was very different from how we are now talking about it because a lot of us are already playing around with it. So it's becoming more, we understand it more, so the language might become a little bit more complex because we just have more knowledge.
Any further tips on how to make everybody's life simpler?
Yeah, if there is a lot of information that you want an audience to digest, try identify a couple of themes and bring it under in those banners, those themes, the key essence of each of those themes. So I always try to limit myself to 3 to 5 themes. If there's a lot of information to convey, find those 3 to 5 themes and then bundle your messages within those themes.
That's Esther De La Cruz, change expert and employee engagement specialist. Business Essentials Daily is a SoundCartel podcast. Producers are Nick Schildberger, Jeff Waters and myself. Technical production by Pete Letts. I'm Nicole Goodman. Thanks for listening. We'll bring you more Be Daily next week.